Well, hi everyone, and welcome back to Crosswires. It's James here. And in case you didn't know, there's been another Apple event yesterday, as far as we're concerned. So today's the 8th of September, 2022. Apple held their event on the 7th of September at 6 p.m. British Standard Time, which I think if that would have been 10 a.m. Pacific Time, so 10 a.m. in Cupertino. And you know what? We're going to talk about it. So, of course, whenever we've got a special Apple event, we have to have an incredibly special member of the team come and join us. So, hey, Jay, how you doing?
I'm doing great. And for those wondering, yep, I'm Jay now because Jay's my legal name, and I decided to retire the Frasley branding. So I guess now we can all get jaded.
Oh, this is... You know, folks... 1 minute I'm thinking, oh, it's a great idea to have Jay on the show. It's a great idea to bring her as part of the team. And then she goes and makes jokes like that, and I'm regretting the entire course of my life.
But you're smiling so wide right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, it generally is. Look, you know, we've actually just recorded another episode, which will be coming out in a few weeks with Drew from the Sleep With Me podcast. It's a sleep help podcast, not anything else help podcast. And you know what? I love the chemistry we're building. And do you know what, folks? I love the show. We are going to come to this later on, but I reached out on Twitter yesterday for you lovely folks to give us your thoughts on the event, and many of you did. So we're going to be putting those into the show. Thank you so much, everyone who did that. All right, let's get into the show because otherwise we're going to be here all day. I mean, we might be anyway, but let's see. Okay, so first things first. Another good, well-produced event.
Yes, the production quality on this. I have to wonder how long it took them to do all this stuff.
Well, maybe that's kind of the thing. Of course, people say, oh, Apple are just, why haven't they put this in? Well, we should always remember that new product announcements from any company, not just Apple, these things don't appear overnight. It's not like Tuesday there wasn't an iPhone 14 or iPhone 14, or any of the products were released, and yesterday they were there. These things have been taking a long time to develop. And actually, I think we'll come to that in some of the things we talk about. But I do like this style. I know that people miss the audience. And I do miss the applause and the cheers to an extent.
But it also saves them from the times when the audience is like crickets when something doesn't go well.
Yeah, and when, there's classic moments where everyone's got their MiFi devices on and Steve has to stop their presentation.
Yes. I was just at an event where they told everybody, turn off your Wi-Fi because we're trying to use it for the audio. I mean, Wi-Fi is still not a great thing, especially when you have a lot of people in one venue.
That's right. I mean, to be fair, it wasn't so much that people were on the Wi-Fi, it's that there were so many Wi-Fi networks because of all the MiFi devices. Anyway, let's not go down that path. All right, as you said, Jay, we're obviously implying out notes. It really gives people, the time to focus on the products. One thing that I love is the use of virtual sets because it highlights information. I don't know how much of it was a virtual set and how much, it's clear some of the stuff was filmed outdoors, but obviously a lot of it was also virtual sets. Now, before we get into the actual event, there was a little nagging topic I wanted to very quickly touch base on. I'll say we do have plans to do a whole episode about secure messaging, but there's been a lot of controversy recently about Apple not adopting RCS, which is an industry standard, but it's something Google are really pushing through Android. Now, RCS at its core is not end-to-end encrypted. It's encrypted, but it's client-server encrypted, which is very similar to how Telegram works by default and other protocols. That's fine. iMessage is somewhat end-to-end. It's not as good as Signal, but that's a whole different thing. But RCS, because RCS isn't baked into the core end-to-end encrypted, the extension to do that end-to-end encryption, it's proprietary Google that is sat in Google Messages on Android. Now, there's so many things that have to happen to make that available across platform. And the reality is, there's probably a lot of very vocal Android users or people in a multi-platform household or multi-platform family who are saying, no, we must have RCS. The one quick response I want to make to it is because Tim Cook sort of said, well, we don't see our users wanting this. This was in a Q&A session at a different event. He said, just get an iPhone. Now, Tim, I don't necessarily like that response because we have to recognise that our competition. Of course, Tim is going to say, get an iPhone. But what I'm going to say is, saying that there's no way to exchange picture messages between iOS users and Android users is a complete fallacy. There's great tools like Signal. Signal is private, it is secure, it's truly cross-platform, and it can exchange all sorts. And I use it with my family, even though they're on, mostly on iOS. But I think it's great. I don't know, Jay. Am I barking up the wrong tree there? Or...
No, and one thing that was very clear is iMessage is something that Apple's able to work on to really control, and it's able to bring some of the features that we see in iMessage. I mean, some of the ability to send things through the ecosystem, and I think Tim Cook's right, but I still would like to see an app on iPhone that could use RCS in some regard.
It would be great because Google could do that.
Yeah.
Google could bring Google Android messages or whatever they're calling it to iOS. Now, look, yes, it would be ideal if we had one thing that everyone could use that is more secure than SMS. SMS, certainly for two-factor authentication, needs to go away.
Yeah, absolutely.
But SMS, as actually we'll discover later on in this discussion, is still essential. People forget how essential SMS actually is. So let's get into the announcements. And we're starting with things that we think maybe have the lesser impact. We're going to start with AirPods. Now, Jay, you have AirPods.
Yep, I got AirPods Pro, AirPods 2, and the original AirPods.
Okay, so you have a lot of AirPods. Now, I did have AirPods. I have the original AirPods. My mum now has my AirPods, as it happens, and she absolutely loves them. One thing, is it just me, or are we seeing so many people with AirPods?
Oh, absolutely. At my store, so many of my associates have AirPods in their ears, and it has really become common. Though I think you're also forgetting something, James.
Yeah, what am I forgetting? Oh, yeah.
You're forgetting the counterfeit AirPods, too.
Yes, the counterfeit AirPods. But, yeah, I mean, they are a problem. Look, let's just be really clear here. Not all Bluetooth in-ear headphones are created the same. The reason the AirPods perform so well is they've got chips inside them. We've got Apple Silicon inside them. And Apple, remember, they bought Beats. There's no coincidence that Apple upped their headphone game after they bought Beats. I don't personally like Beats headphones. They're too basic.
Yeah,
for me.
Absolutely, they're not my favorite, and I actually have a different preferred headphones, even over the AirPods. But the AirPods are nice. My issue is the earwax.
To be fair, that's probably less of a problem on the AirPods Pro because they are true, tip in ears. Now, I wear hearing aids, as many of you know. And what that does mean is that I cannot wear in-ear headphones while I'm wearing them. So I actually have to take my hearing aids out to record the show because I wear in-ear headphones. That means now it also means that the very nature of my hearing aids is to amplify sound. AirPods Pro with noise cancellation and adaptive transparency mode would be useless. Well, no, they wouldn't, but there's certain things they can't do. So they can't do... Actually, they could.
Especially with the mode of the accessibility option they have on AirPods where you can hold a
live listen.
Live listen, yes.
You are right. And in fact, actually, there's all sorts of functionality there. Now, Apple do a great job of, having hearing aid accessibility. I love that my hearing aids are paired to my iPhone. iOS just does a great job. But the more I think about it, actually, the system I have because I'm completely deaf in my left ear, the system I have is called a cross system, and the idea, very simply, is that the audio from my left hearing aids microphones get passed to my right. Well, actually, Apple could do that. It's just you would look very odd with a pair of AirPods Pro permanently in your ears.
Yeah.
People, if you've got headphones in, people naturally assume you can't hear them, but actually, All right, let's talk. So we've got the H2 chip. Not much more to say. It's going to, of course, increase the abilities on these AirPods. And again, this is a product of Apple owning the end-to-end process of the hardware and the software. Tim said it's one of the reasons people enjoy Apple products is because it is a fully integrated experience. And we certainly see that here. Now, better noise cancelling, wonderful.
Absolutely, because I've used the noise canceling on this in different environments. One of the environments that it helped a lot in was when I was in an office environment and I had other people constantly talking. It was so great having it cut out. Or back when I shared the house with my parents, I would use noise canceling so I couldn't hear their TV downstairs, and it worked phenomenally. Not perfect.
Now, I like the fact that we're saying that it's now going to be able to sample more, and they've worked hard to make it cancel out more. But on a flip to that, the AirPods Pro have transparency mode, which allows you to bring in some of the sound around you. Now, that's great, but the great example they gave is you're out on a busy street with roadworks, or construction noise. And I do love how stereotypical that construction scene was. The guy with a jackhammer. It's not always that. It can be, a digger. It could be, the builder shouting, "Oh, mate, you got a hammer." But what they're saying is adaptive transparency mode now will allow you to filter out those sort of noise, but still hear, for example, the crossing signal, or, that conversation that you need to hear. Or if you're on a bus or a train, you'll hear the next station will be Piccadilly Circus. Exit here for... I've forgotten. Anyway, the point is your adaptive transparency is perfect for that. Do you see yourself, is that a compelling reason for you to upgrade?
Yes, if I was still working in the environment I was working in before, or if I was still working the early shifts where I actually did use AirPods with active transparency, I would still use that. Because the reason I didn't use it, I stopped using AirPods even on my first shift, was it would pull in the very loud noises of the cleaning machines. It would pull in a lot of noises I didn't want to hear. And having this pull out that stuff would allow, because active transparency amplifies everything around you almost to a dangerous level. I felt like.
Do you mean standard transparency?
Yeah, standard transparency mode on the AirPods, the Pro, the current one where you could have the noise coming through. That actually made sounds worse, and I did not like it as well. But if it can actually remove this stuff, I would. But not right now for me, especially because I'm not wearing headphones at work because of the role I'm in now.
Are you allowed to wear headphones in your role?
We allow associates to wear one ear when you're out on picking, but I do a lot of attending to cars, and we're not allowed any of them.
That makes sense. Yeah, no, we had a similar policy at a few roles I've worked at. I had one place where AirPods are so discreet. Well, she didn't have AirPods; she had fake AirPods. She would just wear it anyway.
I've had associates do that, and the other issue is sometimes I've had associates not hear me over the walkie because of the AirPods. Yep,
which to be fair is a good reason why maybe I'd love to see Apple open up a walkie-talkie app, which we haven't used in ages, and it doesn't really get a mention anymore, but it's still there.
It's really cool. I mean, I know you and I have used it a couple years ago.
Yeah, and we should use that more. Anyway,
absolutely.
So I think AirPods Pro are okay. Two more things to talk about. Well, to highlight is spatial audio. Now, again, as someone with a hearing loss, I don't appreciate it. What I will say is I love the concept of using the true depth camera on an iPhone to personalize that spatial audio for your head, for your hearing. Now, I was actually speaking to someone today in a electronics retailer here, a good electronics retailer. For those in the UK, it's actually Richer Sounds. I was in just seeing what headphones they had in because I potentially wanted to upgrade mine. And they were saying, well, the HTC One did this years ago. And I thought, yes, it did, but I bet it didn't do it as well. Have you tried spatial audio?
I have, especially on my iPhone supports it, so does my iPad, and it is bizarre because you'll be having your earpods in and you'll be looking at it and you moved it over. I at one point was listening to watching a horror movie and I thought it sounded like my headphones were not in. I was like, oh no, can everybody around me hear them? But yeah, it's bizarre. I honestly, though, this is me. I feel like it's a gimmick.
I can see that. Now, look, I'm sure that you've used it. I've not tried it. So this is, again, where I'm going to open things up to you, our listeners. Drop us an email, podcast@crosswires.net. Leave a comment on the post. We'll also put a link to the actual discussion thread that we started. By the way, thank you, Substack, for having discussion threads that are so easy to set up. I know a lot of the comments have said, and a lot of people I've spoken to said, yeah, the AirPods Pro look cool and definitely going to be upgrading or looking to upgrade. One thing I really like from a simplicity of charging point of view is that the new AirPods Pro can now charge off Lightning, Qi, MagSafe, and your Apple Watch charger.
That's brilliant, because then if you only need to have one charger, because if you're wearing your watch, just put your Apple Watch on it, and then that's brilliant.
And one thing that we were talking about, because I know you've lost AirPods.
Yep.
Right? And it's one thing I do sometimes struggle with. I'm a big fan of RHA Audio's stuff. I use their True Connect 2s as my Bluetooth headphones, so I actually use those for editing. What I'm wearing for recording are the True RHA MA750Is, but there's no location stuff. But now, with the AirPods, what they've done is they've obviously used the same technology as we have in the AirTag ultra wideband. So if your device supports ultra wideband, you can get precision finding. Now, I have an AirTag on my keys. For a number of times, be able to use ultra wideband to pinpoint my key. Oh.
What also people don't ever want to mention is also, if you have a Mac at home, that finding is great. So that way, if you have a Mac at home that's on, you can be like, oh, I left my AirPods at home.
Yeah, because the Find My network is there. The other thing, of course, about AirPods, and people forget, and I don't know any other headphones that can do this. Now, I know some headphones can have multiple pairing profiles, but the auto switching between connected iOS and connected Apple devices is so clever.
Yeah. Except every once in a while when you're open up your iPhone at work and you're watching on your iPad. Back when I used to use both, and it would switch from my iPad to my iPhone over a text message.
Yeah, that's not ideal, but hey, it is what it is. So before we wrap out the AirPods, now, okay, one of the things we want to explore in Crosswires is all about positive and ethical technology. So I'm going to ask two questions, Jay. First of all, are you going to upgrade?
Not at the moment.
And is that a cost? I hope you don't mind me asking, is that a cost issue?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, because they are $250 for a little bit more in the UK. Now, yes, one thing I did want to mention about UK pricing, they have gone up a little bit. Now, for our UK listeners, when you see the dollar prices, do remember that in most US states, they have to add on sales tax, which is very equivalent to our VAT. So our prices always include VAT. So do just take that in. Now, they are more expensive. As we record this, we're in a huge economic crisis across the world. The pound is incredibly weak. So it's frustrating, I know, but don't just assume that Apple are gouging us. It's not quite as simple as that, because you have to take into account that. But here's the question. If people have older AirPods Pro or older AirPods and maybe the batteries are dying, or people are just looking for a really good, and I would say affordable pair of in-ears when it comes to the features they have, do you think the AirPods Pro are a good upgrade for if you can afford them, and are they a good product in terms of price to performance?
I would honestly say either the AirPods 3 or the original AirPods Pro, because they're going to go down in price because of these. Because the technology is great in the AirPods 2, the AirPods Pro 2.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's worth spending $249. I got somebody back in December a pair of AirPods for $100. So, and it was the AirPods 3. And I mean, I think if you look around, I got my AirPods Pro for about like $150. So I think it's definitely worth upgrading if you can get a good price on it, but don't go out right now and just buy these because they're new.
And also, don't forget, we are only recording this a day after we don't have any. We have very, well, I don't say have any. We have very limited real world experience with these devices yet. So everything we say here is absolutely take with a pinch of salt. I would say I think they are a good upgrade, but Jay's hit the nail on the head. Do you really need those new features? If you do, and if they will give you a quality of life improvement, then absolutely. But don't just upgrade for the sake of it.
And the AirPods Pro are really good just by themselves, and they're gonna go down in price as people are trying to get rid of stock.
All right, so that's our quick AirPods section. Matt, let's put those back in the case and move on. Okay, Apple Watch. We need to announce a sad death. The Apple Watch Series 3 is no more. Hallelujah!
So, fun story about the Apple Watch Series 3. When I used to be a huge Fitbit fanatic, and when Google bought Fitbit, I immediately went out and bought an Apple Watch Series 3 because I was not going to give Google access to my data. It was a good watch, but I'm now on a Series 7 because the Series 3, even in the modern times, is not a great watch, in my opinion.
No, and one important note is it's not getting WatchOS 9, so well done, Apple, for maybe could have discontinued it a little bit earlier so people hadn't bought it, but that's okay. That's all right. Let's talk. So we're going to put a link as well, by the way. There is a model comparison that Apple have done which shows you all the features. So we're going to start talking about Series 8. So, same effective design as Series 7. It seems to me, by the way, that we only really get a new watch design every 2 series. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's what it seems.
Yeah, because this looks a lot like the Series 7 and its design. And the Series 7 is nice. I like the full band design.
Oh, one of my friends, Josh, has a Series 7. And this is... So I'm going to try and get Josh on the show at some point. Josh was a huge Apple hater. Full on Android boy, full on Linux boy. But something's happened recently, and he's become like big Apple fan. And in some cases, he's actually got better Apple technology than I do, which is hilarious. Josh, if you're listening to this episode, you know that I love winding you up about that. So, Series 8. Now, we've tried to highlight some of the key features. I'm not going to go through everything. Let's start with one. I love Apple's commitment to making things safer and to making technology help us in those emergencies. And actually, to me, that seems to be a recurring theme for a lot of what they've done in these new products. So we already had fall detection, crash and all the great ECG and high heart rate detection stuff. Brilliant. We got crash detection, and this is using more sensors, so barometers. So they gave an example. The barometer they've put in is calibrated so it can detect the change in air pressure of an airbag going off.
That is incredible. Yeah, because what I love is it's a device you're just going to have on your wrist. You won't think about it. Similar to fall detection, you won't think about it. The AFib, all the ECG stuff. Except I've had family members who have relied on the fall detection and ECG stuff. It's helped them, and it's something that you will be glad that you have it there. And I love how simple it is. And they even said like they're only going to use the sensors when they're estimating a crash, and only during that time. So it's not like they're trying to spy on you with more details.
No.
It's all on your device, but it's trying to know when are you going to have a crash and immediately get you help.
And that's why we've got serious processors going into these Apple Watches now. I think crash detection's awesome. Yeah, as Apple said, we hope it's a feature you never have to use. Now, the next one is something I know that... Okay, they've added another set of temperature, a temperature sensor. Now, this isn't being used for anything else. It's not being used to detect fevers or anything like that because of where it is. Now, I think there is... I don't understand the science behind this, being very honest. And this is a bit of a delicate subject. These temperature sensors are designed to help with tracking. So Apple Watch already has cycle tracking for reproductive health. They're also adding ovulation prediction for those who ovulate. Now, Jay, I'm going to let you take over here and just. And I think we've had a lot of discussion about this outside of this recording. And the only thing I want to say, and this is not aimed at you, Jay, this is aimed at anyone commenting or anything like that. Please remember, just keep everything civil. We have no tolerance of hate in either direction. Jay, over to you.
So there was a real missed opportunity for Apple to use a more inclusive term. They said this was temperature sensors for women's health, and there are more than just women ovulate. You have non-binary individuals, you have trans men, and I think Apple could have shown a better inclusivity by just saying it's temperature sensors for people who ovulate or people with reproductive health. But I also understand Apple is a big company, and there was probably a lot of meetings back and forth behind the scenes on this, and it is a huge right now. Even changing the language is a huge controversy. So I understand, but I just didn't want anybody listening to think that we don't care about reproductive health, because we both do.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I'll be really, really honest. I prefer the term reproductive health to something than people who ovulate. That sounds very. I don't know. That people who ovulate sounds like a book title, not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to make a joke out of this.
In one area where I feel excluded is I'm a woman, but I don't ovulate, so I feel like, okay, it's not really for women's health in the way that you're talking about it. So it is.
Oh no, yeah, it's very difficult. It's very difficult, and knowing what we know that Tim Cook is an out gay man. I would like to genuinely believe this is not malicious. I think we've seen enough from Apple to know that they are LGBTQ AI plus friendly, and not just friendly, supportive. I do not believe this is malicious on Apple's part.
Not at all. And I'm going to guess there's been a lot of meetings behind the doors. Now, one interesting thing that I was impressed with. So because of some of the recent changes in the United States, and I'm not going to get political, but there's a lot of things going on in the United States about reproductive health. This new function, along with the cycle tracking, has a heavy focus on data privacy. So yes. The health data is end-to-end encrypted, and the encryption keys are generated based on your device's passcode and not on an Apple-derived key. And Apple cannot access the data, and if you lose your passcode, neither can you. So they're very heavily letting you know this data is not in the hands of anybody but you, that somebody can't use this data against you.
Absolutely. And it actually goes further, Matt. In order to be able to sync end-to-end encrypted data like health data to iCloud, your iCloud account must have two-factor authentication enabled. You will not sync encrypted data, end-to-end encrypted data without that. The other thing to mention, if you do your backups onto your Mac in a traditional cable-based method, the health data will not be backed up unless you have encrypted the backups. As in, there is an option when you do an iTunes, well, it's not even iTunes anymore, you do a desktop backup, you can choose to encrypt your backups. If you don't encrypt them, your health data does not get backed up.
Which is incredible and very important. And see, that's why I feel Apple is being very mindful of all this stuff, because again, they are not just they went above and beyond to make sure that this data was protected.
And look, I've been involved in a few Twitter threads where people are saying, oh, Apple are just as bad as everyone else. They collect so much data. Just to be clear, there is a huge difference between data collection on device and data processing and using that for marketing. And also, I don't want to get into all this, but because that's a whole different episode. I know we've got plans to talk about this. But yeah, I think you can rest assured, I certainly wouldn't be putting my weight and blood pressure. I know it's not as sensitive. I understand that. Certainly when we get medication reminders, well, that is very, very sensitive data.
Yeah, it was a reason why I didn't want to give Fitbit my data, knowing that they're owned by Google. It's why I moved to Apple.
And I agree with you. Now, the next big part of an Apple Watch is battery life. Now, I've had those days where my watch has definitely hit, coming close to 10%. I've definitely, I've never had a major problem with my Series 5. But one of the things we're saying, obviously the Series 8 is going to give you the same great 18 hours battery life, but now we're bringing in low power mode. Now, to be very clear, this is not power reserve, which watches have had for ages. This is similar to iPhone low power mode, where they'll stop doing certain things, but you'll still record all your health data. But it will just preserve, and we're saying you can get up to 36 hours. That's great if you're on a multi-day trip.
Yeah, like if somebody's traveling in the beginning of October.
Yeah, I mean, Jay's coming to the UK in October. We won't, of course, reveal exact dates. But I don't think we're doing a meetup this time, are we? Because
no, maybe a future time. But yeah,
maybe a future time.
I'm excited. But yeah, this would have been perfect for that flight because I probably will have a dead Apple Watch by the time I get over there.
Very likely. Now, one thing I will say, one of the best little Apple products I've bought was actually a foldable dual MagSafe and Apple Watch charger that Apple did. Yes, it's expensive, but it sits permanently in my backpack, and it just needs a lightning cable and it'll charge both devices.
Oh, if only I had a MagSafe compatible iPhone. Maybe I'll have to upgrade my iPhone.
Well, hold on. Technically, it's still Qi charging.
Oh, you may have to give me a link to that after the episode.
Yeah, even if you don't get it, we can always try it with. Actually, do you know what? I will let you know for 100% certainty because I'm going to my parents tomorrow. Dad has an iPhone 8. My mum has a XS. They are both Qi charging compatible. I'll try them on my MagSafe chargers.
Oh, perfect! Because if they do it, then that'll be the perfect charger that I'll need for the trip. So
it really has made a huge difference to me. Future James here, and yes, I can confirm the Apple MagSafe chargers, particularly the Duo charge for the Apple Watch and the MagSafe charger, does charge via Qi both an iPhone 8 and an iPhone XS. The only thing is you have to give it enough power. I tried it with sort of a standard USB socket on my parents' sofas, yes, and it doesn't work, whereas plugged into, a decent wall outlet, it's absolutely fine. So same requirements as the charger itself, but it does work. So that's for Watch 8. I would say, if you're on anything that's not going to support WatchOS 9, great upgrade. I am not upgrading from my Series 5. I know you're not from your Series 7.
No, because the Series 7 does exactly what I need. The low power mode would be great. The crash detection would be, because I drive every day, but still, I'm not. It's not worth the upgrade to me. But if I had been on my Series 3 like I was still on till last year, I would have absolutely upgraded to the Series 8.
I think there's almost, I think if you look at it and say, okay, this is something I'd love to hear from watch wearers, traditional watch wearers. How long does a watch last in traditional watch or maybe digital watches? I'd love to know that because that's actually could be something we talk about.
If it's my dad, he buys a new one every single cruise. Did I say that?
You did say that out loud. All right.
I love you, Dad. I love you, Dad.
The pricing on the Series 8 is it $399 US, I think?
Yep, $399 US.
Okay, so that is $399 US, which is currently $420 in the UK. But no, $419. Sorry, $419. And that's for the GPS. The cellular version is, I think that is $499 in the US and $529 in the UK right now. Not a bad price. You do spend more than that on a really good watch. I think, if you're on an older watch, upgrade. But however, for $259 UK or $249 US, you can get the new SE. Or 319, I keep saying 320, 319 for the cellular, which I think again is, that is $299 in the US, from what I understand. The Watch SE has been massively upgraded. It's got a lot more features. It still has the crash detection and fall detection. What it doesn't have is the blood oximeter, which was introduced in, I think, Series 6.
That sounds right.
Series 6, and it doesn't have the ECG that was introduced in Series 5. That's fine. It does have crash detection. It does have fall detection. It's still a great watch. And, in fact, let's just compare models really quickly. So, It's the older design still, so it's the design that was with the Series 5 and 6, Series 4 and above. It's still got it's not an always on display. Fine. It does still have the swim proof. It's 50 meters water resistant. It will still detect high and low heart rates. It will do regular heart rhythm notifications, cardio fitness. It's got all of the... Oh, now this is interesting. The Series 8 and the new SE have the compass backtrack that was mentioned in a later product.
Oh.
But anyway, the big difference is display and finishes, all of this stuff, okay?
It uses the specs of the Series 8, and that by itself is pretty spectacular. I mean, with phasing out the Series 3, the SE is a pretty nice mid-range device.
Absolutely. One of the big things about the SE, and in fact any Apple Watch, is family setup. Yes. So family setup, this is a little bit of a difficult one for me, to be honest with you, to talk about, but So, family setup is targeted for those who don't have an iPhone but would benefit from a set. Now, this will only work, of course, on a cellular watch. Yes, I think it will. I think it's only on cellular connected watches. And the idea is that it's for maybe younger children or older relatives. I don't want to go into much of the detail about how Grandad passed away because, for a start, we don't fully know. But what I do suspect is that it was fault-related. Now, my Grandad had a telecare system. And this was, provided through the local authority, all this stuff. And I won't get into that. But it consisted of a bracelet that he wore with a button. And then he had a pendant that was designed for fall detection when he couldn't press his own button. But problem with it is, and I'm not going to slate the makers of these devices because they serve a purpose. It was, at least for my Grandad, it was too sensitive. Whenever he'd bang the table by accident, it would go off and, the telecare people would be on the box, saying, "Are you okay?" And he'd say, I'm not wearing my thing anymore because it's too sensitive. I don't want to say, I don't know, but if he had an Apple Watch SE with family setup, could that have helped? I don't know, but what I would say to people is if you've got an elderly relative who is fall prone, and people are as they get older, seriously consider an Apple Watch SE for them and get them set up on a family plan. Yes, it's going to cost you, about £320 in the UK or $300 in the US. Isn't that peace of mind worth it? Because, of course, when they have a fall, it can contact you, as family contacts. It can reach emergency services. And if emergency services don't hear a response, they will know to do a welfare check.
And it has the ability to also, with the cellular model, you could call them too. It has
that's the point, yeah. But I think, from what I understand, family setup requires a cellular model.
So even in addition to the fall detection, it's the way to keep in contact with your relatives.
Right. Let's take this away from the fall stuff. And, as you said, it's a way to keep in contact. For younger children, you can restrict who they can call.
Yeah.
And, in fact, who can call them. Now, that, even for older people, is a great... Because, unfortunately, once a number gets out onto the internet, for any reason, it's likely to be spammed. So, actually... maybe your older relative does not need an iPhone.
Yeah.
There is some accessibility issues. Being really honest, my Grandad had very little sensation in his fingers. Look, and if any of my mum's side of the family are listening to this in particular, I really apologise if this has upset you at all. That's not my intention at all. I just want to make sure other people Yeah, I'm going to leave it there.
Well, I'll add my brother-in-law has an Apple Watch for the fall detection particularly because he is prone to falls from some medical stuff, and a fall could be deadly for him, and it's why we have it. So yeah, it is. This is something that is.
It
close
touches
to
both of us, doesn't it? Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think, honestly, Apple are doing a great job in this space. All right, that's the SE. I think, honestly, great price point. Now, what's not so... Now, okay, on face value, this is not a good price point for this product, for the next one. So, we had the watch, the Series 8, and the SE. No, nothing unusual there. We usually get a series at this time of year. And to be fair, the SE is usually at a different time. But anyway, Apple has released a new variant of the watch. Now, this is a monster.
Oh, yes.
Okay. It's 49 millimeters diameter. It's called the Ultra. And for some reason, all I can think about is Power Rangers. Ultra Sword, power up.
Let's go, Power Rangers.
Oh, no. I was such a Power Rangers fan as a kid. I really was. Like, I cried when Tommy lost the Green Ranger powers.
Nerd.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. No, I am. Okay, so let's start with the price point. It is $800 US and £850. There is one version alone. Every version comes with cellular. Every version comes with GPS. There's no size differential. Should we just start, Jay? All right, let me ask you something, Jay. Is this the watch that you should buy as an average human being?
Not at all, unless you're going to be in 50 Celsius degree weather.
I mean, the recent heat wave in the UK has not been good. I can't imagine. But the point is, this is for extreme athletes, people who need to train hard, people who go on adventures. One of the really cool things they talked about was, and they partnered with a company to turn this into a really well-featured, with this app, dive computer.
Yeah, this thing has a 100 meters capacity, and it's built
for water resistance. Now, I think for diving, they said it's good for 40 meters of diving. Okay. It's certified. Now, this is a thing. This is certified for scuba diving certification for 40 meters. I looked at dive computers quickly before we recorded in terms of, what wrist-worn dive computers. Those things range from £400 to £1,200. I think I really want to hear from people who are into this hobby. I think Apple have got something fairly special here. This thing has got improved compass. Now, and one other thing, sorry, I'm getting really excited about this. Jay, how much do you know about GPS, Jay? Let me just ask you about that.
I know that, like, GPS, probably very, very minimal, but I know, like, GPS uses Wi-Fi to try to figure out where you're at. On our phones, uses Wi-Fi to try to approximate.
That's not GPS. That's location services. That's Wi-Fi triangulation.
See, I don't know a lot about it.
Okay, so you don't. Okay. So there are three sets of frequencies for GPS: L1, L2, and L3. Sorry, L5. Sorry, not L5. So L1 is what your iPhone, the existing watches all use. There are different applications for each, but L5 is kind of precision mode finding. Now, it's available for civilian use. I'm going to link a document which tries to explain this a little bit better, and I wish I understood this more. But it means that it's more precise by a long shot. Because one of the problems that they highlighted is, particularly maybe marathon runners running through like Chicago. Well, GPS works when you've got a great view of the satellites, but when you've got building reflections and you're going down a busy street, it struggles, whereas the L5 frequency set is going to really help with that. So, very cool that that's there. It's got, obviously more compass stuff. Now, one of the things they showed was the redesigned compass app with the ability to set waypoints and compass backtracking. Well, when I was reading the tech specs for the Series 8 and the SE just now, turns out the Series 8 and the SE both have that feature as well, which makes me wonder, is that coming to older Apple Watches? Is that a software feature?
If so, that would be really cool. And it would be nice on the safety standpoint, too.
Absolutely. Wayfinding, well, we play lots of video games, right? In fact, we're going to start streaming some of them. And some waypoints in games like, I held out Subnautica is a great example of that.
I was about to say that.
Yeah. Being able to, know where you're going and compass backtracking. Look, me and a friend went for a little adventure. This was last year, I think. and we went to a place called, what we thought was called Dancing Ledge. We turned out we were at the wrong place. Anyway, that's a different story. Coming back, it was dark when we were coming back, and we forgot which field we went down. We had no mobile signal, so we couldn't do anything like, bringing up GPS, but Apple Maps. We could have used compass backtracking at that point. Jay, one of the things you talked about that you liked was the action button.
Yes, because the action button, especially for that you can set some stuff with it, that you can do action. So, especially when like you are doing a lot of things outdoors, like even like possibly for the work I do, because as again in the winter, it'd be nice to have an action button because it's designed to work with your glove as well. So it knows in an instance, hey, you won't be able to use your touchscreen as well. So we'll put stuff on your action button, and I'm trying to remember what they had on it, but like it works with things like the dive computer. So this button is designed to be an extra way to access.
Mm-hmm.
And they've also made the turn wheel much more rugged to work with gloves as well. So there's a huge focus on knowing you're probably going to be in an environment that's not your typical environment when you're using this.
Yeah, and we've done the same with the side button. That now stands, as they say, proud out of the case. This watch is function over form. It is not, it looks cool, but it's not a pretty watch. It's not something that you would use with, say, a Hermes loop.
And I can see it being used for anybody who works like in a factory, anybody who works in like physical demanding retail, like the people who work at the freezers at my company. I mean, what I also like, it is much better for sunlight because they've made it where you can see it in direct sunlight, which in some regards it can be very, very beneficial, even for non-sports related activities. Like I know somebody who uses the Apple Watch in their business for like checking on calendar invites and stuff like that, and they.
Yes, I see what you're saying, but I think we just want. I think I probably want to say that's probably not a reason to buy the Ultra.
No, not at all. I'm just saying that they've really gone for what are the use cases that are way outside of the norm. So that's what I mean. Is that like it's designed for the harsh extremes of the environment. I mean, and it's pretty incredible that they want to make a watch that can even compete with some of the big sports watches out there.
Well, and that I think is why it's priced so much, because the development and the components. This is for extreme sports. Now, and also, let's be honest, this is for adventurers, people going, scuba diving, rock climbing. But one of the things they've done as well is they've developed, 3 different types of band?
Yeah.
For different. So there's one that's designed for like
going over your wetsuit that's designed to go around it. One is designed for being able to quickly modify things. I think, especially if like you're running and stuff like that, it's designed for there.
And then the other one's like extreme land sports and climbing thing where it's not going to come off your wrist.
Yeah, and because even in reviews of the Apple Watch, I had some fitness experts say that they did not like Apple Watch for how undurable it is, and this thing is incredibly durable for that regard. And with this GPS, they nail the thing where other smartwatches for fitness had way better GPS for that stuff. This is that fine-tuned fitness watch as well.
Do you know what? I'm not getting an Ultra.
No.
I'd love to hear from people who get them. And again, we'll keep an eye out on reviews and stuff. All right, let's move on. Let's put our hand over the watch. I still love that, by the way.
I do too. It's so nice. It's
great. And obviously, I've got a Series 5, so I've got the always-on display, so it just dims it. It is nice. Let's talk iPhones. Now, first thing, what's missing from this year's lineup, Jay?
Well, I think if I were to talk to Mickey Mouse, I think his wife's missing. There's no Minnie this year.
Oh, Disney, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Disney. That was... they're coming after us now, don't you? Like those Simpson episodes with the Disney lawyer.
Oh, yes.
Which is, of course, so ironic, given...
Well, and I had a Disney lawyer actually come after me for something in my early days as a kid. That's a story for the... I'll tell you afterwards.
I I don't think I want to know now. Okay, right. So now you know something about our new team member, folks. She was persecuted by the Disney lawyers. There you go.
Yes.
All right. So yes, there's no mini now. Okay, there's no mini yet. Apple could get surprises at another event. Say, hey, we've got an iPhone 14 mini, but they usually announce it at this point, and the fact that we have a 14 and a 14 Plus. This is the first time we've had a Plus model iPhone since the iPhone 8.
That's interesting.
Isn't it?
Especially going on later on with the 8 also introduced that same year.
Right, because the 8 introduced the separate model of iPhone. And, okay, I want to ask you this. So one of my friends said to me, said, oh, why can't we just do, 13S, 13S, 14? Why can't we do that? And it's a valid question. But before we talk about it, I'm almost going to say the iPhone 14 is effectively a 13S.
Yes.
And the 14 Pro is what would be, sort of next year's iPhone 14 if you're doing it in that model. One is effectively an update. The other has all the new features.
Yep, just like the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 10. I mean,
right.
that was my and I think by calling it the 14 and 14 Plus signifies size, and I think by calling it Pro and Pro Max size, I think an S variant, people are like, what the crap is S?
What does S mean? Because, we had the... this started with a 3G and a 3GS, and remember 4 and a 4S, 5, And I do remember when the 4S, if you remember, 4S came out.
Oh, yes.
Well, the 4S was obviously gave us Siri, but a lot of people speculated that 4S actually stood for iPhone for Steve, because it came out just after Steve passed.
I remember that.
It was a long time ago. Let's. Oh, hey, one thing we should quickly talk about, which I hadn't put in my show notes. Did you see that Apple released a security patch for iOS 12 for the iPhone 5S and iPhone 6?
Interesting. That goes along with what they had said at WWDC about how they're going to be releasing security patches for some of the older devices separate from the main releases.
And do you know what? Anyone who says that Apple that abandon their devices are wrong. Apple support their devices for far longer than any Android OEM I've ever... And I've seen this. Samsung promise so much and don't deliver. And, hey, I was watching, our friend of the show and guest, Ken, did an episode where he had a fake iPhone... Was it the iPhone? It was phone 13 Pro. I can't remember.
Yes, I remember that episode.
Very recent episode. We'll put a link to it. It said, okay, Android 10. Turns out it wasn't Android 10. They'd faked the version number. It's actually Android Marshmallow. And if that's something you can do on an Android platform, look, there are great Android phones out there. I think Google are doing a great job with the Pixel. I think Samsung have a lot to offer. But... don't buy cheap Android phones, folks. They aren't all that they are cracked up to be. So, look, we both use our phones for photography and videography. Now, most of Crosswire's video content at this point is shot on my 13 Pro. Now, you do have, for streaming video, you do have an actual camera, a Sony.
Yes.
I believe.
An A5100, yep. Great
camera. So we do rely on... Now, the iPhone 14 has a new... So one of the things they seem to be focused on is a lot of light stuff, getting more processing. Because again, so the iPhone 14 has the A15 Bionic from last year's 13 Pro, which is a great chip name. Now they're doing something called the Photonic Engine, which is basically all about light processing, and But my first thought was it sounds like something from Star Trek, and. I'm almost imagining Robert Picardo as the Doctor. Now, we should say we did try to reach out to Robert to see if he would record this line. He may well do before this episode comes out. Please state the nature of the iPhone photography emergency. I mean, it does. It does.
It really does. And yeah, what they had said about with this is just as their processing engine for how they process things, because like they will try to do all the processing at certain areas, and this is stretches a little bit my understanding because of like this gets into the weeds, but like they moved one of the processing steps farther up to try to get better light processing.
And that's a big challenge when you've got, obviously smaller sensors and smaller lenses compared with, I hold up your A5100 because, you've got the potential for really good light work. And some of my friends have got some of the Sony Alpha.
Oh, those things look so nice.
Oh, no, A7 R4, Mark 4. And a friend of mine's got, I think, the A3 for video. Amazing. But iPhones are absolutely catching up, and this sort of low light processing, and not just low light, they highlighted bright light in all lighting conditions, because one of the things you can get with harsh lighting is blowout, overexposure.
Yeah.
Well, if you've got a computer processing all that light, my granddad, we're talking about, I love how able to share his memories. It's so great. Granddad was a keen photographer, and this is in the age of film. He did graduate to digital, but bless him, he was older by this point. He managed, but not too well. But one of the things he used to have is this light meter, and he would stand there and he'd be pointing at my mum to try and get the light right levels. Even to this day, my mum, whenever she sees that light meter, she shudders because she has such memories of my granddad pointing. She'd be stood there for half an hour, but you don't need that anymore because the iPhone can process it. It's so cool.
And that is one of the things that like people want to say that like. I'm not trying to get like Android versus iPhone, but Apple has some amazing secrets in their processing engine on iPhone.
They absolutely do. And hand in hand with that comes action. Now, I don't mean calling action. I mean, running or, cycling or anything like that. Now, if you've wanted to do any sort of smooth shots, up until now, you've needed to get something like the amazing DJI Osmo Mobile series. And I've used one of these. I filmed with one of these. They are wonderful. But, Jay, I think you got quite excited about this.
Oh, I did, because I've struggled with like sometimes smooth video, and I love this new action mode that they've added to video. It does all the processing that you need to do to keep it smooth without even what I would have considered some of the warping effects. The ones where you see the video warping on the edges. It looked so smooth. It's what they showed. I'm gonna see how this looks like in different environments and different test cases, but that was actually pretty incredible. I'm gonna guess it's gonna probably like lower your frame so that way it can hide the outside. But still, what you can do with this on an iPhone is pretty incredible.
It really is. And yeah, I'm with you. I want to see side by side shot comparisons, but I think it's just fantastic. One thing. My iCloud shared photo libraries has been announced as being delayed to later this year. Sounds like they're having some problems with it.
I'm going to guess either syncing, conflict issues, or security. I'm going to guess.
Probably one of those. And do you know what? If they're delaying it for those reasons, I want them to get it right. I can wait for that. It's fine.
So, at the top of the hour, James, you mentioned something that when we talk about the presentation, it takes a long time. This next feature sounds like it's been developed for many, many years by Apple.
Okay, I'm just going to say at this point, my preface to this section is, wow.
Yes!
Now, there's so many unanswered questions on this one, but emergency SOS via satellite. Now, let's start by saying this is currently US and Canada only. I'm imagining that's probably to do with the network of satellites and the partnership they have. Now, some people are speculating that this is Starlink because they announced something similar, but I don't know.
So this is they were talking about in the presentation about to do what they're about to do typically involves bulky cables and things like that. Like because of the power required to get the right antennas and stuff like that. So they are creating an interface to help you, if you have access to the sky, to be able to say, hey, here's where the nearest satellite is, point your phone to it, and then it'll help you find the satellite and get connected to it in the right way like those like the old trope of cell phone reception.
Oh yeah, can you hear me now? And it will guide you, say, help you keep connected. Satellite communications, as you just highlighted, Apple said, normally these sat phones require big antennas, they're bulky, they cost a lot. But this is not, to be clear, this is not turning my iPhone into a satellite phone.
No.
You're not going to be able to make calls over this. You're not going to be able to use this for data. But what they've done is they've made it so you can do emergency SOS, which will be sort of via text message. I think from what I understand, it's going to work two ways. If the SOS provider, the emergency services in your area supports SMS, then it'll be a direct connection. If not, they'll use one of their voice relay centers, which is probably the other reason why it is currently US and Canada, because to build that infrastructure will take time.
And it would take time to get back and forth between the provider. So what they've developed is an interface, and they've worked with the emergency services on what is the most required information that you typically need in a response like this. So it has an interface that says, okay, where are you? It has predefined questions that you'll fill out.
It's like a Google form, isn't it?
It really is. And you go through, you develop it. Then they have created a compression algorithm to compress that finalized data into something that can be received by the emergency services exactly how they need it.
Yeah, and it's more than that. Yes, it is that. But also, again, the satellite communications is slow. So they said, look, to make it easier, we will gather the data and send that off in this compressed format. So that, in direct, I think we said, it'll take a few seconds if you have direct visible sky above you. If you don't, it could take a few minutes. That's why they're gathering this information. So they recognise that synchronous communication is not possible over a satellite link.
Yeah.
We see that with, for example, For All Mankind. Without spoiling any of Season 3, we see how satellite lag really plays into some of the story elements. By the way, great series.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And what's incredible is they have a huge focus on being there in emergency, because they said, like, you're gonna have your phone and stuff like that.
So being there in emergency. Now, of course, we should mention that the iPhone 14, the whole range, is getting crash detection as well, because not everybody has an Apple Watch. You're gonna probably have your phone with you in the car. Now, of course, what's really great is this, of course, will work if you're a passenger as well.
Interesting. That's really cool.
But why wouldn't it? It's the same.
Yeah, because that way it's about getting access as fast as you can. I mean, it's why this in emergency SOS, I like that Apple's focused on getting help you need as soon as possible, because every minute or every second is critical.
Absolutely. And, one of the things they talked about in crash detection is, be able to detect, up to 256 Gs of impact, which is just mind-blowing. And they've trained it on data from front impacts, side impacts, and rear end impacts. Oh, and then rollovers as well. So they've actually tested this in real-life crash scenarios. So, and one of the questions I think you asked me was, will Apple improve the functionality here with compression technology? Possibly. But let's just be really clear. You're never going to be able to stream Apple Music off this connection. It's not what it's designed for. Sorry, Jay.
I want to listen to the latest Taylor Swift album wherever I am.
If you want to do that, be prepared to pay for the satellite internet bill.
Okay. I guess after that, I'll just have to shake it off. We're
going to have to talk about your involvement in this podcast.
And this U.S. satellite, my biggest, when I first heard about satellite with the iPhone, I was wondering how much is it going to cost. We still don't know. It will be included for free for 2 years.
We don't know how. Now, I'm guessing they're doing that because they're working out the best deals. Let's hope that's reasonable.
I'm going to guess, what if they did an AppleCare bundle where you had your AppleCare bundled with this, or your Apple all-in-one?
Well, I was wondering about Apple One. They could bundle with Apple One. There's so many things to cross with that. So let's talk about the 14 Pro and the 14 Pro Max. All right. So first things first, ProMotion display. So this is getting, now from what I understand, that does mean it's going to get 120 hertz up to 120 hertz. So the screen's going to be able to refresh from 1 hertz to 120 hertz dynamically as it needs to. That's great. That is huge for power consumption, because if your screen can dynamically adjust, that's wonderful. what that enables is an always-on display.
That is one of the things, because I know, especially Samsung phones have been touting that, especially on some of their higher end models, something that they could do forever, and it's pretty cool on those Samsung phones, I will admit.
Oh, pardon me. Yes, it is. Now, here's a question. We know that Apple don't always do things first, but they tend to do things very well, sometimes better. I would like to say that because of Apple Silicon, because this is the new A16 Bionic, and this thing is a beast of a processor. Look, we're not a tech news show, so we're not going to dive into all the specs. We're giving our genuine thoughts on what's cool. But the A16 Bionic means that it can dynamically manage the screen refresh rate, and the idea is it will dim the wallpaper, still match keeping skin tones, but that also means that if you don't need to refresh that part of the screen, it's kind of like how MPEG compression works and JPEG compression works. If you don't need to update, or then you can save power. I really like this idea. Oh, we need to talk. So we need to talk about. We're talking screen, so let's stay on screen. Dynamic Island.
So, I'm thinking of this Dynamic Island. I guess Apple is turning over a new leaf.
That's an Animal Crossing joke, isn't it?
Yeah. I had to go under every nook and cranny to find that.
But really, Apple are bringing new horizons. Yeah.
Oh
yeah. I've watched you play Animal Crossing far too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I am actually considering getting it because, our new streaming venture.
Oh.
I kind of want to do almost like the complete Animal Crossing beginner stream, as in...
I will teach you, and so will our chat. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. So, do you know what? I really like, apart from the name...
Yes, the name is... But I do get... I get what they're going for, because... What's pretty cool, because I was actually I think it was one of Ken's videos was talking about on iPhones and fake iPhones how Apple really blends the notch well compared to some other. And what's pretty incredible with this, especially with the OLED display, it does not look like they're expanding the notch, or I mean, like it looks like the notch and stuff is part of the same area. It is a pretty incredible feat to make the notch something that's not just an eyesore.
Absolutely. They put a proximity sensor under the glass. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Under that same glass, we've now added, a autofocus. I think that's actually the same on both the 14 and the 14 Pro. Is the selfie camera now has autofocus, 12 megapixel autofocus. Great. The only concern I have from an accessibility point of view is that if you have impaired eyesight, are you going to be able to see the Dynamic Island stuff as well? Does it maybe come as an option where you can say use Dynamic Island or don't? That might be valuable for some people.
Yes, I didn't even think about that. That is a good point, because what I like is it's kind of the evolution of the notification center in a way. That's because it really feels more like they're focusing on keeping it out of the way of whatever app you're on, and that way you don't have something pulling down over your view. You're just in an app, and all of a sudden the thing pops up a little bit, be like, "Hey, I have this thing," and then goes away. It's honestly, I know you're gonna ask me about this later on, but it's honestly what's going to keep me going to a Pro versus just an iPhone. Let's
just be really clear: I'm not upgrading from my 13 Pro at this point.
Yeah, I'm not upgrading from my 11 Pro Max for right now, because it works.
And we'll come back to that. But I really like that. Now, let's talk cameras.
Oh.
Because the big thing here is the new main camera is a 48 megapixel sensor. But that's cool. And what they're doing is using quad pixel to be able to let you crop and do more. So that you still get an effective 12 megapixel manageable image size, but the detail, and it then gives you a 2x zoom. So 13 Pro and above have the ultra wide standard and the telephoto at 3 times. What we're going to be able to do with this new sensor is say, okay, well, we'll crop down to a 2 times, but it's still going to be 12 megapixels.
That's cool.
It's really cool. Even better video quality. 4K. So 4K, you're going to be able to do 4K 24, which is a big deal for cinematographers. I just love the way that they're going forward. Again, it's got all the photonic engine and everything like that. If you haven't watched the event, they give some great examples. iPhone photography and iPhone videography is going from strength to strength to strength. Lots of other phones claim to be able to capture at 8K. Great. But if the lenses aren't great, if the ISP isn't great, and probably more importantly, if the underlying codec, if you're capturing 8K at some stupidly compressed format because you have to fit it onto your storage, it's not as useful as being able to capture 4K in Apple ProRes, which is an industry standard. If you want to shoot 8K, you probably don't want to be shooting on your phone anyway.
Yeah, you probably want a better
Well, you want a cinema camera. You want a Blackmagic or a Rocket or a Red camera or something along those lines.
Well, and one thing I think we forget about is Apple has perfected the high efficiency
HEVC.
Yeah.
Because
that's incredible now to think about how many videos and photos I'm saving nowadays in huge quality but very small file size.
Right, but again, this is sort of a flip of that where, when you talk about ProRes 4K takes up a lot of space. If you wanted to get that same quality, you couldn't record ProRes 8K on a phone. I think they've struck a good balance, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And battery life, too. I mean, think about the battery life to do all that data.
Oh, gosh, yeah. It's crazy. Oh, hey, we've missed something on the Apple Watch Ultra. I think by default it's going to have 36 hours on a single charge. And then later this year, they're saying that the low power mode is going to allow for up to 72 hours.
Which is incredible, especially because, I mean, if you think about what you would possibly be using that for, I mean, long travels, I mean, especially in long sports outings, camping. Apple has done a lot of focus this year on software and software optimizations.
It's interesting you mentioned that because actually, technically speaking, the main camera on the 14 Pro, I'm not sure if this is true on the others. I need to just double check this. I think Marco Arment was mentioning this. Technically speaking, they are worse spec. They have higher apertures, so they don't have as low f-stops. I think the photonic engine might solve that problem. I'm really excited to see what the guys at Halide come along with, because they always put the cameras through the proper paces.
I think we forget how far we've come. Do you remember the original iPhone, where some of the original iPhones where you took a picture and it would do the little like skeuomorphism shutter thing, and then it would go out, and how long it took to do photos. They showed a picture on using the one of the pros of this insect that they captured within milliseconds, and that's some of the stuff that they're really working on, is trying to make it fast, available wherever you are when you need it immediately. I mean, and to record those moments that may be gone forever after that.
Absolutely. Okay, 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max. They are apparently a little bit bigger in terms of screen size, but because we've got even further edge, same. So both the 14 and the 14 Pro are 6.1 inches. The 14 Plus and the 14 Pro Max are 6.7. Still very impressive. Let's because we have some listener comments, and a lot of the listener comments echo a lot of what we're saying, so we're going to go through them. But before we're ready, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. Software updates. iOS 16 and WatchOS 9, are hitting on the 12th of September. Now, that's when this episode's coming out. So by the time, at some point during the day, if you listen to this on day one, those updates will hit. And I'm so excited for iOS 16, mostly because of the new lock screens, because of all sorts of cool new features.
Oh, yeah.
And we've talked about this on our WWDC event. iPadOS 16, however, is delayed officially until October. Do you want to bet it's Stage Manager?
Especially because the Mac OS is also delayed the same way. I'm gonna guess it's something to do with that, because I'm gonna guess that they share similar code.
Stage Manager will, if it's a Stage Manager problem, then delaying both releases makes unfortunate sense. But you know what? Because iPadOS is its own release, it doesn't have to be. Now, that does mean that we're not going to be able to get all some of those collaboration features straight away, but that's okay. So we'll see when that happens. It's going to be iPadOS 16.1 that comes, and that's fine. Should we dive into some of the listener comments?
Absolutely, and thank you to all of you listeners for leaving your comments, because it's one, helpful to know that you exist out there, but also we love to hear from you. So thank you very much.
Absolutely, and we'll put a link to this discussion thread into the episode. Please, add to it. Thank you, everyone who contributed. So we're going to start with Graphics Gear, aka Ryan, who has been a guest. In fact, actually, everyone who's commented has been a guest on this show at some point. So thank you.
Nice.
So Ryan said that he thought, honestly, turning him a notch to more of a Dynamic Island doing software feature is marketing genius. He's asked the same question about the satellite service, who they're partnering with, because we don't know. Now, is it SpaceX? So, yeah, SpaceX is Starlink. So, yeah, is it SpaceX? Because they have a similar thing. And, again, we don't know what it'll cost. Camera features and performance updates are pretty run-of-the-mill. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with him. Every year we get camera improvements, and that's a good thing. There's nothing...
One thing that I agree heavily with is on the iPhone, at least in U.S. markets, they are dropping the SIM tray, and that is an interesting change, and it's, we're still moving into adoption of eSIM, especially on I use Mint Mobile here, and I had an issue with my eSIM, and I have a physical SIM in here, and I'm kind of curious how that'll deal with, or when I go over, or if I have one of these bottles and I come over to the UK, I'm gonna get a small plan. I could only use eSIM versus a SIM card.
We do now in the UK. We do have some eSIM supported carriers, but I absolutely agree with both yourself and Ryan, who've made this point, particularly for US travel. One other thing, of course, is what does that mean in terms of multiple numbers? Because you could have a physical SIM and an eSIM, but they said you'll be able to store multiple numbers, multiple data plans. So
yeah,
I'm not too concerned about that, but it will be interesting. It's also interesting that this isn't happening anywhere outside the US. And I think that speaks to how bad eSIM adoption might be outside of the US.
And if I remember right, eSIM was limited to just one eSIM card before this.
I believe so. So now they're saying it isn't. Okay. There's no price increase on the Pro, not outside of the UK, but I don't think that's anything beyond currency fluctuations and VAT. Ryan just says he hasn't decided if he's upgraded because battery life is a thing. Now, he has said his Series 3 Apple Watch isn't doing as good. So I'd say, yeah, I mean, the fact that it's not supported, probably time to upgrade.
And he also had the original launch AirPods. Mine are somewhere around my house. And yeah, like my battery health is similar to his. Mine's at 80%. So it's...
Yeah. Now, Jack, aka It's an Arse. Jack, I have to say, I love your handle. But I really do. It basically not that interesting. And you know what? From a certain point of view, Obi-Wan Kenobi, yeah, it's just another run-of-the-mill Apple event, so nothing special. But the new AirPods Pro are a definite upgrade from his current Pros, absolutely. And he's definitely thinking of getting the 14 Pro Max. And I said, well, why? And he's like, well, my use case is... Because, I always say, he's talking about the fact that it was a 12-megapixel camera on the 13 Pro main camera. And I said, well, megapixel myth, all of this. And he's like, well, no, my use case is I crop a lot. So once you start cropping, you lose quality. So the 48 megapixels is going to really help with that. And he said, smartwatch, he doesn't really care, because he mentions the Pebble. My Pebble had great battery life, but it wasn't.
But it wasn't a great device. Well, I had the Kickstarter one. My e-ink screen would always go bad on that one. I had so many replacements of that one.
Yeah, and then finally, Andrew from the Pixel Addict and Amiga Addict team, who joined us a few months back, he said the new price of the new Apple Watch is a tad eye-watering, £800, so $850. What do you guys think of Apple's pricing policies? So first of all, let's just be clear. That is the Apple Watch Ultra, as we said.
Yes.
What I said, because I replied to everyone in the comments, And was my take. I do think that Apple charge premium, but at the same time, the software support you get from them is superb. I personally feel happier paying more knowing that I'm not part of a price, or rather, my personal data isn't part of the price I'm paying.
Oh, absolutely, because all this software is either, if it goes to iCloud, it's encrypted, but it's processed on the device. And yeah, people have to realize it is not geared for everybody. It is geared to be that device that you put on your arm. You can rely on it to be there in harsh environments, doing harsh things. It's not something that it is that, but also it is still cheaper than the Apple Watch Edition.
Oh, the edition. Yes, the edition. Oh, gosh, yes. So thank you to Ryan, to Jack, and to Andrew for your wonderful comments. I'm sure we might even get some more in, though we did say we were recording. I'll say, before, rather than do this in the outro, please do add to that thread. I'd love to hear your thoughts, particularly on what we've said. Email podcast@crosswires.net. Both myself and Jay get those emails, so you'll get a response from one of us. Thank you, by the way, to Fastmail for making our new... We now have moved away from... Because Jay's joined the team, we've moved away from the Crosswires domain being sort of, my custom domain on iCloud to using Fastmail. Fastmail are not sponsoring this episode, but if you want great, privacy-focused, easy to set up email, either just, at Fastmail, whatever. We've got lots of domains you can use for email. Or you want to manage your domain email, multiple domain emails. It's affordable. I mean, Jay, look, I've actually invited some of the Fastmail team to come and join us on the show for an episode. But the fact that they've got configuration profiles for Mac and iOS, they make the process of using app-specific passwords so simple. And we found that their support was brilliant. The ways that they've thought out features is just genius.
I've actually got a Google Apps email that I had used for my prior podcast, and I'm migrating it all over to Fastmail because of how incredible it is.
We have shared mailboxes. We literally have shared folders. So your podcast at email comes into a shared folder that I've shared with Jay, and then we've got another little trick that whenever one of us replies, it goes into a shared sent folder. Yeah,
it's incredible. And also, I got to say, getting the mail is pretty fast.
Oh, dear.
I'm sorry.
Oh, dear. All right. So, I think another good event. I think I echo Jack. Not amazingly exciting.
No.
I was talking to someone. I was actually talking to someone in one of the EE shops. I was looking at trying to get some accessories for my iPad. And he would say, what else will there be? Maybe another M2 Mac. I'm like, yeah, but it's not really this kind of event where they do Macs. And they did everything I wanted them to do.
Yeah. I just wish I had a little bit more money in my wallet, because otherwise I would go out and buy all these if I could.
Oh, me too. Absolutely. But I will say I'm sticking with my 13 Pro. There's nothing that I need that is so essential that I need to go and upgrade.
I'm just excited for when I do upgrade. Look at what we're going to have.
I will say this. If I was, had a regular income again and had the budget, the iPhone upgrade program looks more and more attractive every time.
And there's a focus, and I love it, on environmental sustainability. And they've admitted that they will reuse iPhones. So your iPhone, all the data is wiped.
Yeah.
But it's used somewhere else, so it's not just going into a landfill somewhere.
Well, it goes to a certified refurbished. Now, Jack, I'm not sure, actually, Jack sent me a message on Discord saying Apple won't take my iPhone because it's scratched. I can sort of understand that. I don't know what degree they could probably fix it. I don't know. I don't know if I fully agree with that. But when they can't refurb a phone and buy it, they'll recycle it. I need to take I've got an old iPhone 6S that I really should take in to get. Is it? No, it's a 6, actually. It's not a 6S. I think we've got a couple of iPhones that we really should take to get recycled.
Especially because of the battery, because that way the battery doesn't explode or something like that.
Right. And we're saying, what was it? Something like they recovered more gold from recycled... Was it? Yeah, the gold we recovered from a certain number of iPhones was equivalent to quite a substantial amount of gold mined. It was impressive, the numbers they showed.
Wow.
And that's big. Look, Apple are big on environmental. We talked a lot about carbon neutral stuff. Look, we have a climate crisis. sorry. If you don't believe that, I'm really sorry, but how can you not see? I don't want to offend anyone, but climate change is real.
Absolutely. I mean, especially as tech enthusiasts, we need to take seriously.
Absolutely. It's why, trying to use less power. I have to admit, there is part of me that thinks I really should sell my Intel power guzzling iMac and buy an Intel buy a Apple M1, but that does have a huge disadvantage because at the moment it's going to be my gaming machine because it's powerful enough to do the games we want. So I'd end up having to buy an Intel system anyway. So I might as well use one platform. Anyway,
Absolutely.
Well, one machine. So thank you everyone for listening. Again, we want to hear your thoughts. So do leave a comment. Again, Good Pods discussion. We'll make sure there's a link to our Good Pods page in the show notes. We'll put a link to everything that we've discussed as much as possible. Sometimes gathering the show notes can be a mission in itself, but here's the one thing I really miss about Fireside. So Dan Benjamin's Fireside had a wonderful little bookmarklet.
Oh, I loved it.
It was so good, wasn't it? It really was. So, but right now, just manually, it's fine. It's fine. The one plea I would make to Substack is please have an API where I could use Daniel Jalcott's amazing Mars edit.
Oh, yes!
Because Mars edit, big fan.
Same.
Anyway, head over to crosswires.net to find all the episodes because I like to think we've got a little something in the podcast archives for everyone. We've got so many episodes on great topics. We've got some great stuff, more retro content. I'm not going to apologize. We've got more retro content coming up. We've got an interview with Alex from Nintendo Arcade. That's so much fun. Alex Passion, just outstanding. We've got Sean from Action Retro. These are episodes, by the way, that have already been recorded. So we've got Sean from Action Retro. Yes, it literally has recorded with us, and we have something really special coming up in October, but we've got even more stuff coming. And one final thing I'll say, if you are someone who works in technology, has a product, has a service, or you want to suggest an episode, we don't yet have a Patreon community. We might do that. But right now, everyone is welcome to suggest ideas. We're not going to promise to do them all, but you're welcome to suggest ideas. Send those over. And make sure you follow us on Twitter at CrosswiresMG. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Say goodnight, Jay.
Good night, Jay.